Did you get some money or gift cards for Christmas? Because I know some light novels you could spend those on. Hello everybody, and welcome to the monthly look at the light novels coming out next month, that being the month of January of 2019. I'm Justice R. Stone, and my channel is completely dedicated to light novels. News, reviews, the light novel podcast, countdowns of the popular titles in Japan, and little informative videos like this that I do on a monthly basis. So basically, January is not filled with a lot of new stuff. We've got pretty much everything being ongoing series except for one standalone title that's coming out from Vertical. Now, if you're interested in picking up any of these titles, I do have the release dates as well as links to Amazon and the book depository in the description down below. On January 7th, from J-Novel Club, we have volume number 5 of The Master of Ragnarok and Blesser of Einherjar. This one an isekai tale about a boy swept away to another world heavily influenced by Norse mythology and finds himself the head of a clan, and it's all about him trying to keep that clan going and filling his castle with a bevy of beauties. Yeah, it's a tough life, especially when you just don't even care because you've got this mad crush on the girl that you left behind on Earth. Times are tough, man, but hey, at least he's got his smartphone to help him figure things out. On January 13th, also from J-Novel Club, we have volume number 3 of Amagi Brilliant Park. This one, the tale about a boy who is, well, what would you say? Basically coerced, kidnapped, threatened? I'm not too sure. Anyway, he becomes the head of an amusement park, which is falling on hard times and failing, which is a bad thing because the people who live in the park are actually denizens from another world, and the park is sort of like their safe haven. And so it falls to him to try and get this park together so that these people continue to have a place to live. It's a bit of a comedy, obviously. It did have an anime some time ago. I actually really like the anime. I've got the first volume of this thing, and well, I'm hoping to check it out at least in January, so I'm not completely behind on this series. On January 15th, also from J-Novel Club, we have volume number 8 of Infinite Dendrogram, the VR MMO-based series about a boy adventuring a game with literally infinite possibilities. It is actually a really good series. I've read the first, what is it now, 3 or 4 volumes of this one. We actually did a podcast on this on the Light Novel Podcast because quite a number of us are fans. And just like in this past week, there's this mad rumor going around that makes it sound like this one might be getting an anime announcement soon. On January 19th, from J-Novel Club, Volume 9 of Demon King Daimao. The story of a boy who goes to a magical high school thinking that he will learn abilities to help change the world for the better, and then finds out that he's destined to become the Demon King, the greatest enemy that mankind has ever known. Yeah, sometimes life is tough and it doesn't turn out the way that you expect. This one, of course, it's a magic high school battle, harem slash. I gotta say, like, the whole premise of it I found kind of interesting. I've only managed to read the first volume at this point because, well, you know, that's just how it goes on this channel. But I'm curious to see how people react to the final couple of volumes of this. I think it's like 13 volumes long, I'm not too sure, but there have been wild speculations that the author had like some kind of mental breakdown or something, which makes me really want to just like read the whole series, because apparently like the last volume in particular is just completely gonzo. But I'm looking forward to seeing when that comes out and hearing all of your thoughts on that particular one. On January 22nd, we get the vast majority of Yen On's releases. First up, we have Volume 3 of A Sister's All You Need. Yes, the series that opened up with a young man eating the warmed panties of his cute little sister. Painful. But the series, thankfully, is not about that. It is about a light novel author who writes that kind of horrible crap in his light novels, though. And it's just basically about the crazy life that he and all the people around him, his friends that are also like artists and authors and everything else that they get into. The first volume, I read the first volume, and I actually do want to read more of it, because the first volume, as much as there was like cringeworthy stuff, it was self-aware enough to say, yes, we know this is cringy, and it should not be written as an honest-to-God book. And secondly, it actually showed quite a bit of self-awareness and sort of like a bit of depth in terms of understanding the artistic process. So I kind of found it a little bit of a mixed bag. Like I said, there was some of it that I was just like, ho, 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 but then there was some that I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And, you know, it's obviously not any kind of biographical thing about what it is to be a light novel author, but I kind of felt like there were some kernels of truth in it that I found interesting. Also on January 22nd from Yen On, we've got volume number 7 of Death March to the Parallel World Rhapsody, an isekai tale about a programmer who falls asleep at his desk after working a death march and finds himself in a world that's kind of game-like. And when he uses this one particular limited use ability, Meteor Shower, and uses it to wipe out a whole army that's advancing on him, he finds that he suddenly becomes ridiculously OP, and he decides, well, since I'm here and since I'm pretty darn powerful, I gotta check things out. And you know, he just kind of starts touring the world and having adventures, and that's kind of the series. I read the first one, and it was okay. I mean, admittedly, it didn't grab me. I wasn't thrilled by it, but I kind of find that now I'm getting more interested in those type of just meandering, lighthearted type series, or that aren't too deep or serious or crazy. And I've heard from quite a number of you that the series actually does get quite a bit better later on, like if you hang in there for the first, like, say 3, maybe 4 volumes. So it's one that I keep saying I want to get back to, and I never do, because every month we have like 40 light novels released, but you know, it's on the list. Also on January 22nd from Yen On, we have volume number 6 of Goblin Slayer, the tale of an adventurer who has dedicated his entire existence to destroying goblins. You know what? It's a real D&D, like heavily inspired by D&D type, dungeon dive type light novel series. If you really like that kind of stuff, it's a pretty good book. It's certainly one that I've enjoyed. You know, we've talked about it on the Light Novel podcast, and I of course have reviewed all of the series up to this point. I'm caught up on this one. But, you know, it's obviously not going to be for everybody, and if anything proved that, it's probably the reaction to the anime that just finished airing. And apparently, though, that anime finished with it saying that we were going to be getting more Goblin Slayer, so it'll be interesting to see whether that's like an OVA or another, like a second season. I'm kind of curious to see what they do and what maybe they tweak or change after the reactions of this first season. Also on January 22nd, from Yen On, we have volume number 9 of Overlord, the series about a man who plays a VR MMO and decides, as it's about to be shut down for the last time ever, that he's going to just sit and wait until the servers log off and push him out, and it never happens. Instead, he actually realizes that he has become his character, an undead lich, and that all of the NPCs that populated the tomb that was his home base have now become living, breathing beings. And it's basically about him checking out this world that he now finds himself in and, well, you know, potentially becoming the overlord of it. It's actually a really, really good series. It's one that I have very much enjoyed. I'm actually reading volume 8 right now in preparation for volume 9, because volume 9 is actually the continuation of volume number 7, which ended on one heck of a cliffhanger. And volume 9 will also be us completely caught up to the anime. So that'll be all the material that the anime covered. So if you are like me and you've been waiting, finish volume 9, then you can watch the anime without spoilers. And if you've just been kind of wondering where we are in terms of catching up to the anime, well, now you know. For the final title from Yen On January 22nd, we have volume number 11 of Strike the Blood, the story of a teenage boy who finds himself now the 4th primogenitor, one of the most powerful vampires in the entire world. He lives on this man-made island that is a demon sanctuary, so it is a place where both demons and humans coexist. But, of course, a hormonal teenage boy running around with all sorts of crazy powers, not such a great idea. And so this particular agency sends out an agent to keep an eye on him and potentially put him down if he becomes a problem. It doesn't hurt that she's a cute young girl on top of that. In fact, I'm not too sure if that was such a good idea given the circumstance. Well, you know, it's a light novel. We all know how it's going to turn out. In any case, this one, I've read up to volume number 7 of this one, so I have fallen a bit behind, but it's a pretty good series. I mean, definitely one of those series that, like, you know what you're going to get week after week. It very much started off as a monster of the week or bad guy of the week type series. Started changing things up about volume 6, 7 where I was reading. And definitely it's a series that I should get caught up on because I've generally liked the series. You know, it's good to have sort of just a good old dependable action type series. Finally, on January 22nd, and this one is actually from 7 Seas or /J Novel Club, it's the print edition of volume number 2 of How a Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom. Now, this one is an isekai. It's about main character Soma, who is isekai'd, or, well, is isekai'd now officially a verb? I'm not too sure. Anyway, who is summoned to another world, to this kingdom, and they basically say, well, we were given 2 choices. We could either summon a hero or we could pay off this big empire that's kind of protecting us from the Demon Lord's armies. And they said, we don't have the money, so we summoned you. And he's like, well, what if I could get the money? And he talks to the king a bit, and the king's like, hey, you've got great ideas. Congratulations, you're now the king. Have a nice day. And so now it's up to Soma basically to try and rebuild this kingdom and build up their finances and everything else so he can pay off the empire so he doesn't have to go and fight the Demon Lord, which is probably a good thing because he doesn't exactly have the greatest abilities when it comes to fighting demon hordes. But in any case, it's actually a very interesting series, a very different take on the whole isekai thing because it is much more based on the idea of the economics as well as like socio-political. It's a really good series, one that I know a lot of the guys on the Light Novel Podcast are fans of. We actually did a podcast of this one several months ago, and I know that we're all kind of trying to keep up with it because it's a really good one. So if you've been waiting for the print release, well, volume 2 is coming in January. On January 24th from J Novel Club, we have volume number 2 of Apparently It's My Fault That My Husband Has the Head of a Beast. Now this one is sort of a riff on the whole Beauty and the Beast type tale. It's a very sort of more shoujo romance type title. Kind of an experiment for J Novel Club because they haven't had a lot in that type of thing. It's about a princess who sees everybody with beast heads and then she meets this prince who she doesn't see him with a beastly head, but it turns out that everybody else sees him with a beastly head. And you know, hilarity ensues. So yes, it's a bit of a romance, a bit of, you know, trying to come to terms with each other and everything else. Sean Gaffney actually reviewed this and said it was pretty good. For being only, this is actually the last volume. There's only 2 books in the series, and I gotta be honest, I'm kind of tempted just to check it out just to see what it's like, because it sounds quite different. On January 26th from J Novel Club, we have volume number 12 of In Another World with My Smartphone. Yes, the tool of champions when it comes to being in an isekai series. It's just, you know, it helps in Master of Einherjar or Master of Ragnarok and Blesser of Einherjar, and well, it really helps out in this series, like in ridiculous ways. At least in like Ragnarok, he only has access to it basically like for a very limited window because he doesn't have a lot of battery charge. The main character in Smartphone, like he literally can use it whenever he wants, however he wants, and it has all sorts of crazy apps, and oh yeah, but you know what? It is just one of those series that it's like one of those series where the author is just like, I want to write a light novel series where anything can happen. Whatever I feel like is going to happen is going to happen. If I want mecha in this, dang it, there's going to be mecha. If I want my main character to introduce bikes to this world, I'm going to do that. How about guns? How about this? How about that? Like, it just, yeah, keeps on going. Like, this main character starts off as just this simple kid kind of wandering along, and next thing you know, he's gone places in 12 volumes. Let's just put it that way. He's moved up in the hierarchy of the world. On January 28th from J-Novel Club, we have volume number 7 of Outbreak Company. This one kind of an isekai. It's basically the story about an otaku who is kidnapped by the Japanese government. I mean, we call it kidnapped. I mean, he's kind of employed by, but it wasn't exactly like he said yes to this. So the Japanese government basically discovers a portal to another world, and they decide that they want to try, of course, to create like inroads with these people, and the one thing that they pretty much discover that they are interested in is otaku culture. And so the government, really not being experts in otaku culture, they kidnap this kid and say, here, you're gonna run this company and introduce otaku culture to this whole other world. And hilarity ensues. Well, yeah, I mean, it is. It's what I kind of liked about this one, and admittedly, I've only read like the first volume at this point, but I kind of liked that there was this little bit of like darker undercurrent to it, particularly near the end of the book. I don't really want to get too detailed because when I read that, I was like, oh, this series is a little bit more aware of what it's doing than what I thought. So finally, on January 29th, we've got 2 titles from Vertical and 1 from Yen On. I'm not too sure why Yen On decided just to randomly put this one title at this point. From Yen On, we have volume number 11 of Log Horizon. Yes, believe it or not, this series about a group of gamers who, at the point where their game is updated, suddenly find themselves transported as their character to a world that is basically like the game they played. It's been a long time, so, like since volume number 10, and that's because the author went through some legal woes. When it boils down to it, pay your taxes, kids. I think that's kind of the moral of the story. In any case, he's started putting out the books again in Japan. Volume 11 is actually the first volume of material that was not covered by the anime. So this is kind of the volume that a lot of people have been waiting for to see just where is this story gonna go now that the anime is over. And well, this is it. I don't know if volume 12 has been released in Japan. I'd have to double check that. I should have thought of that before I started recording, but I know volume 11 was released a while ago in Japan. Wouldn't surprise me if volume 12 is either out or will be out soon. I do know that last time I was talking to somebody about this, they said that he had started posting some of it web novel wise, and that he was probably at least 3 to 4 volumes beyond the anime at that point. So there is more material obviously coming. Also on January 29th from Vertical, we have Koi Monogatari. This is the next volume in the Monogatari series. This one is going to answer the cliffhanger of Otori Monogatari, which was 2 volumes ago. This one about Araragi, who comes into contact with the vampire and his whole life changes. And he just keeps kind of meeting up with all sorts of girls that become involved with aberrations and monsters and ghosts and all this kind of stuff. And it's just about how they kind of deal with those difficulties as they go. Finally, on January 29th, and finally for the month, we have the one and only brand new release, this one also from Vertical, and this one is called Masquerade and the Nameless Women. Since the death of her sister, police force newbie Yuri Uguisu has been chasing the notoriously untraceable serial killer Masquerade. When a new corpse turns up in Odaiba, Yuri immediately goes on alert, only to recognize the victim as an old classmate, the alluring and mysterious Reina Miyoko. When the police force calls in longtime consultant psychologist Seiren Higano for assistance in untangling the testimonies of Reina's father, fiancé, and lover, Yuri meets the riveting, charismatic psychologist for the first time. Little does she know that Higano is none other than Masquerade himself. Faced with Reina's case, Higano promises to get the answers, but no one is prepared for the conclusion reached in the interrogation room. In this cat-and-mouse tale of hunter and hunted, Eiji Mikage has woven a subtle and twisting tale of clashing motives and murky identities where nothing anyone says can be taken at face value. So if you're not familiar, Eiji Mikage is actually the author of The Empty Box and Zeroth Maria, which is a series that Yen On is releasing, and it is a really well-written series, very sort of dark and mysterious and everything else, and lots of sort of twists and turns and mysteries to it. So I'm actually really looking forward to this one, particularly because it sounds like it's just rooted in the real world, which is quite different than sort of the fantasy elements of Empty Box. So those are all your light novels releasing in January of 2019. Let me know in the comments down below, what are you most looking forward to? And remember, if you want to pick any of these up, I've got links to Amazon and the Book Depository in the description down below. Thanks so much for watching this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.